Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about delegates. Now, delegates in C# are basically function pointers. Now let me show you what I mean. Whenever we create a delegate, we're really creating a new type that refers to a function signature. So let's create one here. So we're going to have a delegate, and here's where we put the signature. So we're going to make one that returns nothing and takes no arguments. So we're going to have a delegate void, and we're just going to call this myDelegate. And see how it's turning light blue like this? That's because we're creating a new type. We're going to give it no parameters. And see, now we created a new private delegate that expects no parameters and returns nothing. So okay, let's say we want to create a myDelegate. Oops. We'll call it func. So var_func equals new myDelegate. And see, it wants to know what it ought to be pointing to. So what we can do is we can create a private static void print, and it'll take no arguments, and we'll just have it console.writeLine hello. So now we can put print in here, and you see all we've done is we've taken a function that takes no arguments and returns nothing, and we've used that as our delegate. So what a delegate allows you to do is you can basically reassign, we can create another one, and if we had a print2 that looked exactly like print1, so we'll create a quick print2, and we'll also have it say hello2. We could reassign it like this as well. But for our example, we're not going to worry about reassigning it, we're just going to show you how to use it. So okay, once you've assigned your delegate, we can do func.invoke, and this will actually run the method that you fed it. So if we click start, you can see, hello, it ran the method that we put into the delegate constructor. Now, note, we could have a myDelegate func and just not initialize it, and then, decide based on something like, if args are greater than 0, we print that. Excuse me, args.length is greater than 0, we do that. Else we say func equals print2, which we deleted. So this allows us to pick functions, on the go, basically. Why not, you might be asking, why not just call the function within the if statement or whatever? This isn't like an excellent software engineering example. This is simply a, theoretical, this is how it works sort of example. So myDelegate isn't super readable the way that it is. If you saw, there was a myDelegate inside of a class or a function, you might wonder, what is that? What kind of signature does that have? So sometimes it can be useful, instead of using this, to use some of C#'s built-in aliases. So we're going to focus on action and func. So action says that it's a delegate that returns nothing, that takes 0 or more arguments. So let's create an action quick. So action, well, we'll do var action equals new action. And you see, the action needs a target just like the delegate is. It's just an alias. So we're going to give it print as well. And as you'll see, just like delegate, we can action.invoke it, and it'll do the exact same thing. See? Hello. Now, let's say we wanted to pass a value into this. Like, let's say we wanted to print an int I. So we want to say hello and I with a number. Okay. So notice that our action here, it doesn't expect an argument. Whenever we want to add arguments to our action, what we do is we simply add them inside of angle brackets like this. So what this allows us to do is we can have, I believe the maximum is 16 arguments, which is excessive. You should never have 16 arguments in something. But you can have an action with, as many arguments as you want. So this is saying that, okay, we have one parameter that is an int, and it's going to return nothing, because that's what, actions do. Now with invoke, we need to feed it a value. So it knows that it's going to take one integer parameter, so we can give it that. Let's just give it 5. Now when we run it, we'll see. Hello, 5. It prints out a 5 for us. So I would say always prefer to use actions and funcs to delegates. So let's show you what a func looks like real quick. So let's say we wanted to return a value. Int print, and we're going to return I plus 1. Okay. So we'll say var func equals new func. And with func, you always have to have at least one thing in angle brackets. So the first item in the angle bracket is always the return type. So we're going to have int in here. And any following item in the angle brackets are going to be the parameters in order. So this int is our return type, and this int is our input type. Okay, so we have a new func, and we'll put in print as our function that corresponds to this. Now, just like the action and the delegate, we can invoke the func, and we'll give it a 5 as well. Now, notice, we can have a return type over here. We can set the result of this invoke to this x, and we can console.writeLine our x. So if we look, we passed in a 5, it invoked this function, it wrote the 5, it added 1 to it, it returned it to this x, and now we printed the x out. And you can add more parameters here if you wanted to. So we could have an int I and an int j. And we could print out I, and we could print out j, and we could return I plus j if you wanted. So you could say invoke 5, 6. Let's add a space between these to make it a little more readable. And you'll see, look, hello, 5, 6, and 11. It added them together, just like we wanted. So see, return type, argument 1, argument 2. They're really simple to use, and you can actually, make a lot of creative fixes with these. And as we'll see later, these can be useful for, threading in events as well. But that's basically all that there is to delegates and actions and funcs. They're pretty simple.